Congrats! You've now finished your second Python project and we're back to learning concepts. We've got one last project that we're going to finish up to wrap up the whole course. So let's learn the skills that we need in order to do that. So in this video, we're going to be learning about functions, which functions are a way to give a name to a chunk of code. It's about that simple. So how do you make a function in Python? Well, first you type out the word def. Def is short for define. Whenever you make a function, create a function, it's also called defining a function. So that's why we have the term def here. So we say def space, and then we give our function a name. So I want a function that can print out a dog barking. So I'm going to call my function bark, and then I'm going to give some open and close parentheses, and then I'm going to wrap it up with a colon. So you've noticed anytime in Python that we see the colon at the end of something, typically when we hit enter to the next line, we're tabbed over because that's saying, we want to do something if something above has happened. You've seen this like with the if statement. It's sort of everything that's tabbed over belongs to the thing above it that is not indented and tabbed over. So for example, with this bark function, if I want to make some dog noises, so I'm going to print here, and I'm going to say woof, woof. That was a horrible dog impression. Woof, woof. There we go. That's a little better. This is now a function called bark that's going to print out the words woof, woof. So if we want to go and test it, we'll hit the run button here, and you'll notice nothing shows up. And you're saying, that's weird. We have a print that says woof, woof. It should be showing up on the console. What's going on here? Well, with functions, like I said, it only gives a name to some code. So for example, we've just said whatever's on line 2 now has the name bark connected with it. If we want that code to actually run, we have to type out the name of the function. This is called calling the function. So on line 4, I can say here, bark, and I include those open and close parentheses. And now if I run this, I get the woof woof to show up. And what's so cool is I can call bark, 2, 3 times, no matter how many times I want to. Each time that I call the function, it's going to run the code connected in there. And what's cool about function is they don't have to just be one line of code. So for example, I can also print out here and say something like, I'm a dog. And when I run this, both of those lines get printed because they're both indented over. They're both part of that bark function. Kind of see how this is connected here. So a really fun thing to connect this with is a for loop. So I'm going to just say for x in a range of, and let's do this like 100 times. This is going to loop through 100 times, and each time I want to run the bark function. And just doing this, now if I run this, that shows up 100 times over here on the console. Isn't that great? So as your Python projects get more and more complex, these functions are very helpful to be able to organize code and say, okay, I want to give a general name to this chunk of code so that I can run it over and over again in multiple places in my project. So to make sure that you've got a good grasp on this, I have a challenge for you. I want you to create a function called hello that prints hello Nick. Hit pause, do that now. All right, hopefully that went well. So I'm going to create a function that's going to be called hello, and we're just going to do the colon here, and I want this to print out the statement, hello Nick. And I'll go ahead and copy and paste that, run it, and you'll notice nothing shows up. That's because we haven't called it. So to make sure it really works here, let's call the function, and now we get that hello Nick.